The training room lights were far too bright for what was about to happen. Harper sensed it before anyone else did. The air had that charged stillness, like the silence right before a glass shatters on the floor. Recruits stood in a nervous semicircle around the containment pen, boots fidgeting, eyes flicking between the instructors and the shifting shape inside the transparent barrier. The creature was small, objectively small, but its reputation was not. A lurid cub. Born with claws sharper than scalpels, reflexes that mocked gravity, and an adult form famed across 6 systems for ending conflicts simply by stepping into the battlefield. Even at this stage, it was strong enough to dismantle a reinforced door if it got startled. The recruits had been warned repeatedly: no sudden movements, no loud sounds, no showing teeth. The cub might interpret any of those as an invitation, or a challenge. So when the containment field dropped with a soft hum, a few recruits instinctively leaned back. The cub didn't leap, didn't roar, didn't even stalk. It simply blinked, slow and heavy, like a toddler waking from a nap. Harper stepped forward before anyone else, hands loose at her sides, posture relaxed. She was a veterinarian, one of the few humans certified to handle alien fauna without 6 layers of suits and tranquilizers. To her, the cub wasn't a threat. It was a scared baby in an unfamiliar room. The cub's pupils tracked her, widening. A churring sound rolled out of its throat. A noise that triggered half the recruits to tense again. Harper didn't tense. She crouched. That was when the cub made its move. A blur of fur, claws, and momentum shot across the floor, and a dozen gasps exploded in the room. It latched onto Harper's sleeve, its jaws clamping down with surprising precision. No blood. No tearing. Just a firm hold. Someone yelled, "Restrain it!" Someone else shouted, "Back up! Back!" Harper didn't back up. She just looked down at the cub dangling from her sleeve like a very dangerous, very adorable pendant. Its tail flicked. Its ears perked. And then, as the room erupted into panic around her, Harper did the unthinkable. She tugged her sleeve back, gently but unmistakably. A playful challenge. The cub froze, then chirred again, softer this time, and its grip loosened just enough to read like delight. Harper smiled. "See?" she said, brushing the cub's head with 2 fingers. "She's teething." A silence fell so abruptly it felt like gravity had been switched off, because everyone suddenly understood. The human wasn't scared. And the predator cub wasn't attacking. It was playing. Tara didn't flinch when the cub tugged again, harder this time, its small jaws clamped around the sleeve of her uniform in a playful but stubborn grip. The fabric creaked, stretched, and the entire observation room behind the reinforced glass reacted as if she were being actively mauled. Klaxons didn't sound. Training rooms were soundproofed from the gallery. But the expression said enough. Wide eyes, pinned ears, a dozen alien cadets gripping the safety rail like spectators at an execution they were sure would happen any second. Even Commander Rith, usually calm to the point of boredom, leaned forward with a tension that looked seconds from triggering an emergency extraction. Inside the sealed dome, Tara simply smiled. She shifted her weight, lowering herself to one knee so she was at the cub's eye level. Its thick forepaws slid across the glossy floor with a faint scratching sound, claws still half extended from excitement. Its ears, triangular, fur-tufted, expressive, tilted forward expectantly, as if waiting for her reaction. Tara raised her free hand and tapped the cub lightly on the forehead with one finger. "Really? That's your move, champ?" she said in a tone that made absolutely no sense to anyone outside the species Homo sapiens. "You think a little nibble is gonna scare me?" The cub huffed through its nostrils, a burst of warm breath against her wrist, then pulled again, childishly insistent. Tara responded with an exaggerated tug of her own, gently pulling back like someone starting a tug-of-war with a dog that had no concept of its own weight. This time, the observers didn't merely panic. They froze. The cub's tail flicked, a ripple of dark fur and muscle, but its posture was unmistakably relaxed. Its hindquarters settled on the floor with a heavy thump, spine curving as it leaned into the game, jaws still gripping her sleeve but applying no real pressure. Its bright, amber eyes remained locked on hers, not predatory, not threatening, but curious. Almost delighted. Tara gave the sleeve another playful jerk and whispered, "Good. You're getting it." Behind the glass, several cadets recoiled in shared horror. To them, this creature, this juvenile Sithraxian foul beast, was an apex predator even at 9 months old. Its adult form could crush armored plating, outrun a combat drone, and dismantle a defensive barricade in under a minute. Even the young ones were usually aggressive, territorial, and required shock restraints during examination. Yet here, right here in the center of the training dome, the cub willingly let a human touch it. Play with it. Challenge it. Commander Rith whispered to the instructor beside him. "Why isn't she dead?" And inside the room, Tara only grinned wider, bracing her feet on the floor. "All right, little guy. Round 2. The cub shifted its weight, lowering its shoulders in a posture that, according to every interspecies manual, should have signaled a pre-pounce attack. Its muscles coiled under its striped, smoke-patterned fur, rippling with the kind of raw strength that made even armored soldiers step carefully. From behind the observation glass, several cadets flinched backward as if the beast could crash through the barrier at any second. Tara, in contrast, leaned forward. "Yeah, that's it," she murmured, voice warm, steady, and utterly unafraid. "You're learning the game." If the observers had a word for the sound the cub made next, none dared say it. It was somewhere between a growl, a chirp, and a low, rumbling engine coming online, deep enough to vibrate the floor beneath Tara's boots. The cub wasn't warning her. It was purring. The realization struck the gallery like a shockwave. One cadet's mandibles dropped open. Another muttered a panicked stream of syllables in a language Tara couldn't hear. Commander Rith raised a hand to silence everyone, but even he seemed rattled. "Sithraxian juveniles," he said tightly. "Do not make that sound." Yet the sound continued, resonant, content, almost ecstatic, as the cub pressed its large head into Tara's arm and gave an enthusiastic tug, this time less a bite and more a mischievous attempt to drag her closer. Tara laughed outright. The cub froze, not because of aggression, but because the sound startled it. It blinked, head tilting, jaws loosening from her sleeve as if trying to process what had just come out of the human. Tara reached out and placed her palm against its cheek. "Hey," she said gently. "I didn't say stop." The cub let out a soft, hesitant grumble, then bumped its forehead into her chest with the force of a small battering ram. Tara rocked back, caught her balance, and wrapped both arms instinctively around its neck. The creature's fur was unbelievably warm, thick, and carrying that faint mineral scent unique to Sithraxian species, like heated stone after rainfall. Behind the glass, chaos erupted. "She's being crushed!" "No, look, its claws are retracted! It's pressing its face into her. Why is it doing that?" Commander Rith stared with narrowing eyes. "It's bonding with her." That single statement quieted the room. Bonding wasn't casual. It wasn't playful. For Sithraxian cubs, territorial by birth, distrustful by instinct, bonding was rare, sacred, nearly impossible without months of controlled conditioning. But here, in less than 3 minutes, the cub had decided that Tara was safe. More than safe, chosen. Tara stroked along its jawline, feeling it relax under her touch, muscles unwinding like a collapsing star. Its amber eyes slipped half-closed, expression blissful. She whispered, "See? This is better than biting, isn't it?" The cub huffed agreement. From the gallery, panic slowly shifted into something else, shock, awe, confusion, maybe all three at once. Commander Rith exhaled through gritted teeth. "This," he said, voice low, "was not in the training manual." Tara just ruffled the cub's fur and whispered, "Good thing I don't read those." The cub settled more heavily against Tara, its weight a surprising, nearly overwhelming pressure that pushed her gently back onto the padded floor. She let it, shifting so she wasn't pinned awkwardly. One hand braced behind her while the other continued stroking the strange creature's thick mane. Its eyes had fully closed now, the glow in its irises dimming like lanterns cooling after a long night. Every rumble of its contented purr vibrated through her ribcage. From the gallery, however, the view was anything but peaceful. Cadets were clutching datapads, recording frantic observations. Others whispered about protocol breaches, emergency procedures, whether they should force the extraction override. The viewing dome lights flickered slightly as someone accidentally leaned on a control panel in their panic. Commander Ritha's tail lashed once in agitation before he forced it still. "That animal," he said through a tight jaw, "has never relaxed in proximity to a sentient being. Not even handlers." The instructor beside him, a thin, frilled Garen male, answered weakly. "It tried to bite through reinforced ala last week." Tara heard none of this. She was too busy smiling down at the cub, running her fingers through the dense fur beneath its jaw. The texture fascinated her, soft at the surface but layered over coarse, armor-like undercoat strands that overlapped like miniature scales. Its biological design was nature's masterpiece, a creature built to survive, built to hunt, built to dominate. And yet here it was, a living tank, melting under the gentlest human touch. "You're just a big baby, aren't you?" she whispered. The cub's only response was to shift again, this time curling closer, pressing its entire flank against her side. Its massive paws splayed across her lap. Claws still neatly retracted. Breath slow, steady, warm. Tara let out a soft snort. "This is gonna make getting up real fun." The cub, eyes still closed, let out a faint MRRPH sound that could only be described as a sleepy protest. Then it inched upward, burying its face against her shoulder, snout tucking into the soft joint between collar and neck. The observation deck collectively lost their minds. "It's going for her artery." "No, it's scenting her? Is that possible? That's an imprint behavior. They don't imprint on outsiders, ever." Commander Rith leaned his elbows against the rail, forehead ridged with disbelief. "We need to study this. This is unprecedented." Tara chuckled softly as the cub's snout brushed against her skin. Its breath was warm, its whiskers tickling lightly. Not a single predatory tension line remained in its posture. It wasn't hunting her. It was claiming her, as pack, as safety, as something deeply instinctive and meaningful. She whispered, Okay. You can cuddle. Just don't drool on my uniform." The cub gave a slow, satisfied exhale. Behind the glass, Rith turned to his assistant. "Open a research file and label it Human Interaction Variance, Sithraxian Juvenile Response. Subcategory, Impossible Behavior." Inside the dome, Tara scratched under the cub's chin and murmured, "Guess we're rewriting textbooks today, huh?" The cub's breathing deepened into a slow, rhythmic pattern that vibrated through Tara's torso like the steady thrum of a ship's engine. Its entire body slackened, muscles melting into what could only be described as a full, unguarded sprawl. One paw slid limply across her stomach. Another twitched occasionally in a faint dream motion. Tara glanced down at it, and shook her head with a soft laugh. "You fell asleep on me, didn't you?" The cub didn't wake, but its ear flicked once at the sound of her voice. Then it shifted again, pressing even closer, as though trying to fuse itself into the warmth it sensed from her. The absurdity of it all finally sank in. A creature deemed too dangerous to approach even with 3 tranquilizers and a shock harness was now using her shoulder as a pillow. Behind the reinforced glass, the aliens had never seemed more terrified. "He's unconscious," a cadet whispered urgently. "The creature's faking vulnerability, waiting for the perfect moment to strike." Another, equally shaken, responded, "Zombies don't fake anything. They either kill or don't. There is no deception stage." Commander Rith rubbed his temples, voice strained. "Then explain whatever that is." No one could. One of the senior xenobiologists frantically scrolled through biological data on her tablet, hoping to find some logical explanation. "Sithraxian juveniles don't exhibit sleep bonding. Not without a den, not without littermates, and certainly not with foreign species. This invalidates 8 decades of research." The instructor beside her whispered, "And proves that humans are either braver than we believed, or catastrophically reckless." Tara lifted one hand slowly, resting it atop the cub's head. The fur there was softer, finer, almost kitten-like compared to its rugged shoulders. She stroked it gently, long soothing motions, and each time her hand passed between its ears, the creature let out a rumbling, involuntary huff of contentment. "You're just tired," she murmured. "No shame in taking a nap. Long day of trying to scare the newbies, huh?" If the cub heard her, it didn't show. Its breathing had sunk into that perfect, heavy rhythm that only deep, trusting sleep could produce. Tara didn't miss the significance. "You feel safe," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. For the first time, she let her expression soften fully, beyond bravado, beyond instinct, beyond the instinctive human humor she always used as armor. She looked at the slumbering creature curled against her, and felt something warm unfurl in her chest. Behind the glass, the cadet stared. She didn't train it. She didn't drug it. She didn't dominate it. She comforted it. Someone finally breathed. Commander Rith exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on the pair below, his voice carrying a mix of awe and dread. "Humans," he said quietly, "are the only species in the galaxy reckless enough to treat a predator like a pet, and gentle enough to make the predator agree." Tara leaned her head back against the padded wall, never stopping the soothing motions of her hand. "Sleep well, little guy," she whispered. "I've got you." The cub's tail, thick and heavily furred, swung once in a slow, dreamy arc before settling across Tara's boots like a living blanket. Its weight was substantial, enough that she doubted she could pull her legs free even if she wanted to. Good thing she didn't. She adjusted slightly, careful not to wake it, and exhaled with a long, content sigh. "Man," she murmured, "you're like a space-heated weighted blanket." The observation deck didn't share her calm. Across the glass, Commander Rith pressed one hand against the railing so hard his knuckles went pale beneath the scales. His eyes were pinned on Tara and the cub, disbelief warring with alarm. "This is not normal human behavior," he muttered. The xenobiologist at his side hesitated. "With respect, Commander, the human displays no fear pheromones. None. Her heart rate is steady. She believes the creature is harmless. She is wrong. And yet," the scientist continued gently, "the creature confirms her belief." That statement rippled through the room. Tara brushed her thumb across the cub's temple in a slow arc. The creature made a low, sleepy chuff and nuzzled deeper into her neck. She felt its warm breath against her collarbone, soft and rhythmic, and the slightest tickle of whiskers brushing her skin. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. "You know, your people would freak out if they saw you like this." The cub's ear twitched, but the rest of it remained slack and trusting. The training dome lights adjusted automatically, shifting to a softer, dimmer hue, night cycle mode, triggered by the cub's lowered vitals. The system assumed the creature had returned to its resting state in the den enclosure, and compensated accordingly. The shadows lengthened across the floor in gentle, slow-moving patterns. The aliens observing gasped as the lights dimmed. "It thinks she's its nest? No, its den mate. That is impossible. Fa beasts don't have den mates beyond their birth clutch. Until now," the instructor whispered. Commander Ritha's eyes narrowed. "This could destabilize behavioral predictability. If humans can influence the Thraxian young so easily, every military containment protocol must be rewritten. Maybe that's a good thing," the xenobiologist offered. "Maybe it means they aren't inherently uncontrollable monsters." Rith didn't look convinced. Tara lifted her free hand and let it hover over the cub's ribcage, feeling the steady rise and fall beneath her palm. Its fur warmed her skin like a soft furnace, radiating safety instead of danger. She leaned forward just enough to whisper, "You're not a monster. You're just misunderstood." The cub responded with a slow, instinctive stretching motion, arching its back in a way that pressed its entire weight more securely against her. Tara grunted under the pressure but smiled anyway. Behind the glass, Rith finally spoke again. "We will eventually have to wake it." The room fell into a tense hush. Tara didn't hear him, but if she had, she would have only held the cub tighter. The cub stirred, Not fully waking, just shifting, its paws flexing in a slow, kneading motion against Tara's thigh. Tiny claws peeked out, grazing the fabric of her uniform without breaking it. The touch was deliberate, instinctive, affectionate. Tara knew that motion. She'd seen it in earth animals, in kittens seeking comfort, in pups anchoring themselves during a dream. "Yeah, I know," she whispered, hand drifting to its shoulder. "You're safe." The creature exhaled a heavy, muffled sigh against her neck. The observation deck went silent. For the first time, no one argued. No one shouted protocol. No one predicted disaster. They could all see it clearly now. The cub wasn't preparing to strike, wasn't suppressing instinct, wasn't waiting for a moment to attack. It was trusting her. Wholeheartedly. Commander Rith's crest flattened in a rare sign of bewildered submission to the moment. How is she doing that?" The xenobiologist answered in a daze. "Humans have a unique cross-species bonding capability. Something about their neural send emissions, their micro-expressions, their tonal modulation, it triggers social relaxation in many species." Rith frowned. "Are you saying humans hack biology simply by existing?" "I'm saying," she replied carefully, "that this is the most dramatic example I've ever seen." Inside the training dome, Tara's fingers moved in quiet, rhythmic strokes. Her hand followed the natural contour of the cub's spine, pausing at the sensitive ridges where fur parted to reveal faint bioluminescent streaks. They glimmered softly beneath her touch, reacting to contact, warming. The cub's breathing shifted, deeper now, closer to full sleep than instinctual rest. Tara chuckled gently. "You're gonna drool on me at this rate." A soft rumble answered her, half grumble, half snore. She wasn't sure when her posture changed, but she found herself leaning back fully, one arm cradling the cub's head, the other curved protectively around its shoulders. It was a natural posture, old as her species, instinctive as breathing. The cub, sensing the shift in her hold, relaxed even further, pressing its cheek into her collarbone. Behind the glass, someone whispered, "It thinks she's its mother." Commander Rith didn't snap at the absurdity. He only said, voice low, "And she does not reject the role." The silent admission settled over the room. Tara felt the cub's tail twitch again. This time, she placed her hand over it, smoothing down the fur. "You're heavier than you look," she teased softly. "But I'm not complaining." The overhead lights dimmed further, ideally for the cub, but Tara welcomed the change. Shadows softened around them, turning the dome into something more like a den than a training facility. She hummed, barely audible, a tune her grandmother used when babysitting. The cub's purr deepened at the sound. Rith stiffened. "What is that noise she's making?" "A lullaby," the xenobiologist whispered. "She's calming it further." "Is that safe?" "No," she breathed, eyes wide. "It's miraculous." Tara closed her eyes, her cheek brushing the top of the cub's fur, letting its warmth settle over her like a protective blanket. For the first time in its life, the predator cub slept without fear. For the first time in her life, Tara felt needed by something so utterly alien. And somewhere deep within the creature's chest, a soft, grateful rumble vibrated against her heartbeat. 10 minutes passed, then 20, before anyone in the observation deck dared to speak above a whisper. Even then, the sound seemed sacrilegious, as if any noise might shatter the impossible tranquility unfolding below them. The cub was fully asleep now. Not light rest, not instinct-driven half-alert dozing. This was deep, trust-heavy slumber. Its limbs sprawled without caution, its breathing loose and unguarded, its massive head nestled into the hollow of Tara's shoulder, as though it had always belonged there. Tara herself had shifted subtly, her back pressed comfortably against the padded wall, both arms wrapped around the cub in a secure embrace. If someone had walked in without context, they might have thought the training dome was a nursery. The gallery, however, looked like the bridge of a ship about to witness a supernova. Commander Rith stared at the scene with the exhaustion of someone witnessing the collapse of 100 years of documented behavior. "This is untenable," he finally said, though even he didn't seem convinced by his own voice. "We must wake it before its instincts return." The xenobiologist flicked her frills nervously. Commander, with respect, this level of vegetative sleep in a Sithraxian juvenile is only achieved in moments of absolute safety. And forcibly waking it may cause a panic reaction. Or imprint confusion. Rith blinked. Meaning? She hesitated. Then, meaning it may interpret anyone approaching, except the human, as a threat. A ripple of fear moved through the room. Meanwhile, Terra, blissfully unaware of the rising stakes, traced a slow, absent-minded circle on the cub's fur. The creature shifted at the touch but didn't wake. She smiled softly. Bet you've never had a nap like this, huh? The cub mumbled in its sleep, an impossibly adorable sound for something whose adult form could split armor plating. Its bioluminescent stripes pulsed faintly, matching the rhythm of its breath, faint waves of soft blue illuminating Terra's jaw and collar. The sight was both gentle and surreal. The instructor in the gallery whispered, "This is unprecedented. Sithraxians don't display emotional transparency. They are territorial, solitary, reactive, yet here the cub looks content," finished another cadet shakily. "Peaceful." A third swallowed hard. "It looks loved." Commander Rith bristled at the sentiment, but he didn't disagree. Down in the dome, Terra adjusted her hold slightly. The cub rolled onto its side and flopped its head into her lap with zero dignity, a puddle of fur, claws, and soft snoring. She laughed under her breath. "You're ridiculous," she whispered. Adorable, but ridiculous. The overhead dome lights detected the creature's drift into REM sleep and dimmed further, leaving only the soft glow of its stripes washing the walls and shifting blue highlights. Terra leaned forward just a little and whispered into its ear, "You're safe. I promise." At those words, the cub's purr became so deep it vibrated her thighs and made the floor hum gently beneath them. Up in the gallery, absolute silence dominated. The aliens weren't watching a training exercise anymore. They were watching a myth rewrite itself in real time. The dome's silence held so long it became a pressure all its own, the kind that made breaths shallow and thoughts loud. Every pair of alien eyes stayed locked on the human and the sleeping predator, unwilling to blink in case the fragile miracle dissolved. Eventually, Commander Rith exhaled through his fangs. "We cannot leave her in there indefinitely." His voice was meant to sound authoritative, but uncertainty frayed its edges. "We must intervene." "Sir," the xenobiologist murmured. "Even careful intervention carries risk. The cub is imprinting. Look at the way its breathing synchronizes with hers. That happens only between packmates or brood siblings." Ritha's frills twitched with unease. "Humans are not its pack." Apparently no one told it that. Down below, Terra still hadn't moved except to adjust her posture for comfort. She sat cross-legged now, the cub draped across her legs like a living, oversized blanket. Its soft bioluminescent stripes cast rippling light across her face, and she gazed at it with an expression so gentle it disarmed even the most hardened observers. She didn't whisper this time. She hummed. A soft, steady, human melody, wordless, calm, warm. The kind of tune one hums without thinking when rocking a baby, or brushing a dog's fur, or settling nerves after a difficult day. The sound floated through the dome, warm enough to soften metal. The cub reacted instantly. Its ears twitched. Its claws retracted fully for the first time since it had entered the dome. Its breathing deepened, falling perfectly into the rhythm of the tune. In the gallery, several cadets shivered, as though witnessing something intimately private. "Is she casting some kind of human spell?" one whispered. "No," said another, equally hushed. "She's comforting it." Commander Rith looked like someone had unplugged his worldview and jammed it back and upside down. "They are apex predators," he muttered. "Born to defend territory with violence. Their first instinct is aggression. Sometimes," the xenobiologist replied softly, "the first instinct is fear. And fear seeks comfort." Terra continued humming, stroking the cub's neck with soft, slow circles. Her fingers occasionally tangled in its thick fur, and each time she gently freed them, murmuring, "Easy, big guy." I've got you. No fear. No hesitation. No training manual. Just instinct, hers. The aliens watched as the cub's bioluminescent stripes dimmed, then brightened in long, rolling waves that settled into a consistent, soothing pulse. It was the Sithraxian equivalent of a heartbeat displayed across their skin, a visual signal of unguarded trust. A trust directed entirely toward a single human. Suddenly, the dome doors flickered with a warning light. A soft chime announced an incoming message from the base superintendent, someone far above Ritha's rank, requesting a status update on the human-predator interaction incident. Rith froze. If he reported honestly, protocols would demand immediate extraction of both subjects, forced separation, and heavy sedation of the cub. If he lied, he would be personally responsible for the consequences, political, scientific, and potentially dangerous. He looked through the glass at Tara, sitting so peacefully with a creature that should have torn her apart. Something in him wavered. Because the sight didn't look dangerous. It looked historic. He cleared his throat. "Prepare a delayed report," he ordered quietly. "Delayed how long?" a cadet asked. "Until," Rith said, "we understand what we're actually witnessing." No one argued. Below them, Tara hummed on, unaware she had just become the center of a decision that might reshape two species' future. The cub shifted slightly, its bulk stretching across Tara's lap as it rolled onto its back for a moment, paws curling like a kitten testing gravity. It let out a soft, almost amused gurgle, somewhere between a snort and a purr, and Tara laughed quietly, careful not to disturb the delicate rhythm of trust they had built. She brushed her fingers along the lines of its glowing stripes, watching them flare gently at her touch before dimming again, as if responding to her warmth and motion. Every subtle change in its posture communicated more than any xenobiological manual could have prepared her to interpret. Outside the dome, whispers multiplied. Cadets muttered about neurobonding, emotional resonance, pheromonal influence, all the complex, half-understood mechanisms that could explain what they were seeing, yet none of them dared move toward the dome, as if the very act of approaching would shatter the fragile balance. Commander Rith paced slowly, tail twitching against the railing, weighed down by a mixture of awe and fear. His voice, low and almost reverent, carried to the nearest cadet. "She hasn't used any controls, no restraints, no fear pheromones. Yet it obeys her, trusts her. Entirely." The xenobiologist beside him scribbled notes, at an incredible pace. "This is unprecedented. At no stage has a juvenile Sithraxian imprinted on a non-kin species without extended conditioning, and certainly not within minutes. Her actions are altering its perception of safety, dominance, and hierarchy in real time." Tara's fingers trailed down the cub's spine, her voice soft, almost melodic. "There's no need to worry. You're safe. I won't let anything happen to you." She adjusted the cub so its head rested against her chest, eyes still closed, and felt its body relax even further. Its breathing was steady, and every pulse of warmth from the glowing stripes seemed to sync with her heartbeat. The cub twitched lightly, rolling its head onto her arm, nudging it with playful insistence. "You're heavy," she murmured, laughing. "But I don't mind." She traced patterns along its fur, long, smooth strokes, feeling the dense muscles beneath, marveling at the combination of lethal potential and infantile vulnerability. Ritha's gaze remained fixed, incredulous. "No human has ever done this. Not even among our elite handlers." He clenched his fists. If word spreads, this could redefine interspecies trust protocols across the galaxy. Tara tilted her head, almost imperceptibly, and whispered to the cub, "You're smarter than you look. And stubborn. I like that about you." The cub responded with a soft, sleepy rumble, shifting its tail over her leg as if to punctuate her words. For a long moment, the dome held only the soft cadence of human speech and alien purrs. Outside, the world might have been chaotic, but inside, harmony had quietly claimed its territory, bending the laws of instinct, training, and expectation around a single, luminous bond between human and predator. Time stretched, elongated by the quiet rhythm of trust that pulsed through the dome. Tara's hand moved in slow, deliberate circles along the cub's flank, fingers brushing against the subtle ridges beneath its fur, feeling muscle tighten and relax under her touch. The cub, for its part, made no attempt to lash out, to flee, or even to test boundaries. It simply sighed into her lap, paws curling like soft, padded mittens, tail wrapping lazily around her leg. Its eyes remained shut, bioluminescent stripes dimming and flaring with its gentle breathing, casting waves of calm across her uniform and the padded floor. The gallery remained tense. Cadets whispered in hushed tones, drawing diagrams, scribbling mental notes. One muttered, "It's literally rewriting every behavioral model we've studied." Another, barely breathing, murmured, "And she hasn't done anything extraordinary, just sat with it." Commander Ritha's jaw was tight. His tail flicked once, twice, before he let it rest. He could feel the gravity of the situation. An apex predator, raised to fear and attack almost reflexively, had surrendered its instincts in favor of a bond with a human. Tara tilted her head, murmuring softly to the cub, "You know, I didn't expect to be this popular with the wild ones." The cub responded with a soft, almost amused grunt, shifting its bulk slightly to press against her shoulder. She laughed under her breath. "Heavy, huh? Don't worry, I've got you." Its amber eyes twitched under closed lids as if acknowledging her words in dream space. She traced her fingers along the glowing stripes that ran along its spine, marveling at the pulsing light. The bioluminescence wasn't just aesthetic, it was a biological indicator of mood, a silent communication system that now oscillated gently in sync with her heartbeat. She had learned long ago that alien creatures communicated in ways humans could misinterpret, but this was clarity. Trust embodied in flesh and light. Outside the dome, murmurs rose to low conversations. "The human is rewriting instinct," one cadet whispered. "That cub is literally responding to tone, touch, and presence," another replied. Commander Rith remained silent, arms crossed, yet the tightening at his jaw betrayed him. Protocols were written in cold ink, rules etched into metal and training simulators. But nothing accounted for this. A human who could bridge the gap between predator and species entirely defined by reflexive violence. Tara shifted slightly, rocking the cub's head into her chest. Its paws flopped lazily, claws flexing softly against her uniform. She leaned forward, whispering, "I know you're tired. Just rest. I won't let anything hurt you." The cub's low, vibrating rumble seemed to acknowledge her words, a language older than any system, older than war, older than the galaxy itself, mutual understanding. For the first time, the dome felt like a sanctuary. Not for the human, not for the cub, but for the bond they had forged, a fragile, glowing, living testament that empathy could bridge even the most dangerous gaps. Tara exhaled slowly, resting her forehead gently against the cub's fur. "We'll get through this together," she whispered. And somewhere in the subconscious awareness of the predator, it agreed. The cub's breathing remained deep and steady, each exhale a gentle vibration that resonated through Tara's chest. Its massive body sprawled across her lap and chest, a paradox of lethal power and fragile trust. Tara leaned back against the padded wall, feeling the weight of it all settle comfortably, like the quiet completion of a long journey neither had intended but both now shared. The dome lights dimmed further, softening the shadows and reflecting the faint glow of the cub's stripes across the walls, painting them in rolling patterns of soft amber and sapphire. Tara whispered softly, "You're safe now. Nobody can touch you here. Not while I'm around." The cub shifted slightly, nuzzling her neck in response, a warm, trusting gesture that solidified everything Tara had worked toward in these past moments. Its eyes remained closed, but the faint twitch of its whiskers and the subtle ripples across its bioluminescent stripes spoke volumes. It knew she meant it. Outside the observation deck, the gallery remained silent, caught in stunned awe. Commander Ritha's tail twitched in measured, restrained agitation. The xenobiologist beside him scribbled furiously, muttering, This is rewriting predator-human interaction. She's breaking every behavioral assumption we've had for decades." The cadets' whispers were a mix of fear, admiration, and disbelief, words tumbling over each other. Trust, bond, miracle, human empathy. No one had expected it, and yet here it was, a predator cub, apex-born, resting peacefully in the arms of a human who had approached it with nothing but calm intent. Tara adjusted her hold, gently brushing her fingers along the cub's neck, the warmth and softness of its fur grounding her in the moment. She could feel the subtle rise and fall of its muscles under her palm, the rhythm of its heartbeat syncing with her own, an unspoken connection that transcended species, instinct, and expectation. The cub's purr deepened, a low, vibrating sound that seemed almost musical in the stillness of the room, and Tara smiled, a genuine, radiant expression of understanding. "You're amazing," she murmured. "And stubborn, and heavy, and dangerous, but you're amazing." The cub gave a small, contented grunt, shifting its head slightly to rest more fully against her shoulder, reinforcing the silent promise between them: protection, trust, and companionship. The observation deck slowly began to stir, but no one approached. Even Commander Rith, for all his authority, realized some moments could not be disrupted, some bonds could not be rushed. He simply allowed the tableau to remain, understanding that the human and predator had rewritten what was possible in ways no regulation could contain. Tara leaned back, closing her eyes briefly, allowing the cub's warmth and steady presence to envelop her. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "We'll face whatever comes next, together." The cub shifted, pressing its paw against her arm in response, a small, subtle affirmation of that promise. And in that quiet dome, beneath the soft glow of bioluminescent stripes and dimmed lights, predator and human slept, trusted, and belonged to each other. The impossible had occurred, and in doing so, it had rewritten the story of what it meant to bridge worlds, instincts, and hearts across the cosmos.